Goodness me, just realized it's Mother's Day this weekend. Reminiscing about these beautiful paintings. My daughter made this one for me. It just moves my heart every time I look at these paintings, and they're quite special to me. Here's the beautiful mini orchid I bought for my mom. She has a green thumb, so she'll be able to keep this one alive for a long time likely. And I'm going to use that for inspiration. Later on in the video, I'll share with you a tip on how you can make this card extra special for your mom. So let's get started. Let's get our supplies together and make a special Happy Mother's Day card. So I've brought out my favorite pencil crayons, the Caran d'Ache, and also my favorite gouache paints. Now, this little orchid came with this little tag on it, which is a two-dimensional drawing. I know a lot of people find it challenging to go from a three-dimensional object to a two-dimensional. So here is a simple line drawing of the actual orchid. So we can use that to help us as well. So first I'm just going to put the outline of the shape in. Use a color that's maybe similar. I don't even have a pencil crayon that's exactly that color. Wonderful thing about drawing flowers is they are just so forgiving. Flowers are so imperfect and they can sort of be any shape. So I'm actually looking at the actual orchid itself here to do this drawing because I've got it front and center, right in my face, sticking out at me. It's got 5 petals, and then it's got the wonderful fanciness going on in the center. And I'm just going to separate them a little bit. Here they're right on top of each other, but in my painting I am going to separate them just to make it a little bit easier. I've never really drawn an orchid before, so it's interesting when you finally try to draw something new, how you actually learn what the different shapes and petals look like if you take a closer look at it. Here is the finished drawing. I think it's balanced fairly well. As you can see, I used the 2 colors, sort of an olivey green for the stem, for the outline, and then the pink for the actual flowers. Here, not very expensive ones. I do a lot of my shopping at Curry's Art Supply here in Canada. I've got a number 2 and a number 5. I've had these for a long time. If you take good care of your paintbrushes, they will last a long time. What I'm going to do here is a bit of a wet on wet technique to see if I can get a little bit of the bleeding happening. What we're going to do is we'll work one petal at a time, and I'm actually going to take and just no color on my paintbrush to begin with, no pigment, wet the area that I want to paint, just so that when I do put the magenta on, it's hopefully going to bleed. And maybe I'll use the back of the envelope here and just create like a color chart. Yeah, that's not bad. It needs to be a little bit darker than that, so I'm going to add in a bit of blue to that, and then let's see what we get. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. So maybe somewhere in between that. Obviously, if you add water, you're going to lighten something. Let's do one more. There's the color we were looking for. That's a nice magenta. So definitely a mix of the blue and the magenta is going to give me the intensity of what I want. And this is the petal here that I've wet. So I'm going to use that color. And I'm just going to start putting in some actually, you know what? I think I'm going to take the smaller brush because I think that's going to be too big. So we'll just wet our brush. And we'll go into the paint that we mixed. And it's definitely solid around the end here. And then there is just a bunch of lines of color, and it's kind of going in this direction. And you can just kind of do it wiggly, and hopefully it's going to bleed. You can re-dip just into the water and then carry that color across. And just kind of following the curve of the petal. The wet is bleeding as much as I'd like it to. You want to do one leaf at a time, keeping them separate from each other. If each one turns out a little bit of a different color, that's okay too. So I'm going to go ahead and continue and do the rest of these petals. This part is pretty much done. It's going to dry. You can see I've added a little bit of yellow. There is the one leaf in the center that has a little bit of yellow, and that's worked well. I put in some fine lines on the little buds as well that are going to hopefully bloom. Oh, I see I missed one. I better add a little bit of pink on there. And now we are going to go ahead and work on the stem part. I start with an olivey green. I'm going to actually use this little plastic thing for a palette. I can just mix right on there. So I'm going to get some of the bright green, and then I'm going to add some orange into that. Oh, that's coming nicely. I think that's a pretty good color to start with. Maybe a dab of red so it goes a little bit darker. And a dab of the dark green, and just keep working with it till it's the green that you want. And I think that's a nice dark, rich olive green. All the stems, and hopefully the petals are dry so that paint does not bleed onto the magenta. At least that's what I'm hoping. Put a little bit of dimension into those. But first I just want the base color on there, and dip into that dark green and see what happens when I take that and just maybe put it on the edges. Those flowers are looking dry, so I'll be able to put some more details on there, especially with the white. And I'm just going to add a sample of this bright green in here that I've used as well to mix my other green. Just to kind of balance that out and complete it. I think that looks pretty neat and cool. So that'll be the envelope. I'm just going to use a bit of the white paint here with the white, and definitely going to use the smaller paintbrush and just put in some detail lines around the outside, and maybe some more squigglies, adding a little bit of white. So just very, very fine lines, holding the paintbrush up straight, not pressing too hard. The harder you press, the more bristles will be down onto the paper. The white outline around the outside is not going to show up against the white card, of course, but if you wanted to put a bit of blue in there, maybe put a bit of background in there, you could certainly do that. And that's turning out pretty good, I think. So this is just a quick painting, not wanting to get too detailed. Whoever you're giving this to, for me it's my mom. She could take it and keep it for a long time and frame it if she wanted, which is always a great compliment to every artist. I'm also going to probably put some writing in here, probably Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Something joyful like that. Maybe a poem on the inside, write something from my heart. Put Happy Mother's Day in here. Normally I just kind of go for it. I don't plan too much in advance. Seeing some different fonts. Got a new pen here, so I'm just going to go over that again. Here's my special tip. Once you're finished writing the inside of the card, just slip a couple of little individual specialties in there that she can enjoy at a later time. Just a little bit of extra love. Thanks so much. Give this video a thumbs up.